Hey guys, it's Joe with VMP. We're here for Tuning Tuesday, episode 19. That was a close one. I almost didn't have it. Joe and Alex, we're here to answer any types of Mustang or F-150 related tuning questions, supported platforms, issues that you can run into when you do stupid stuff. Basically anything within reason.
Combinations, things, fuel types, max limits. In the last couple of days, we've gotten a lot of questions about, what can my motor take? Like we just had a GT500 customer call us and say, I want to be at 850 wheel. How long will it last? Well, Joe had a great analogy earlier as to an answer to how long can a factory-built internals, motor can last. And what was it that you equated it to?
Are you going to have a heart attack tomorrow? When are you going to die?
Right.
Nobody can answer that definitively, absolutely. This is when it's going to happen, and this is why it's going to happen. Right. It could happen today. It could happen 10 years from now.
But my friend has the same combo, and it lasted 5 years. How come it, chucked
My friend's grandma is 113 years old. Does that mean my grandma's going to live to be 113? Not necessarily.
Yeah, I've seen some motors that shouldn't be lasting as long as they're lasting, and people seem to use that as the metric, as the benchmark. Well, such and such motor lived at 800.
Well, the average lifespan of a person in the U.S. is 75. What do you mean I'm only going to live till 55?
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
So I ate ho-hos and sixlets all day. No one knows what a sixlet is because everyone's young. So if you know what a sixlet is, you're over 40 years old. I guarantee it. No one knows. Everyone's shaking their head. What's a sixlet? So yeah, basically we can't answer definitively how long your motor's going to last at a high horsepower level because some will pop NA, some will pop a moderate boost. It all depends on your fuel quality. How it was built. Let's say some guy had to take a dump at the factory and forgot to tighten one of the rod bolts or something like that, or something, and then you come back and you have that 1 week motor. Who knows? So we can't answer that question. Everyone seems to use that as a metric. Like, homeboy's car has 900 wheel at 21 pounds of boost, so why didn't you guys build me one that is the same way? So it's not a thing where it's clear
cookie cutter.
Yeah, not cookie cutter at all. So if you have any questions, make sure to share, like, and subscribe, especially on YouTube. They actually change the format a little bit, so the questions do stay. Apparently, so that's a good thing. So we don't have to keep tracing it back and forth. And if Justin now is doing the actually asking the questions that are coming across because Carrie's a little under the weather, so she had to step away.
Yeah, I'll be here to read off the questions.
Provide some tuning insight because I hear you know some stuff about tuning.
Couple things,
A
thing or
little
two.
bit. Hey, I was thinking, guys, it might help them give them some insight into to put that question, that topic you were talking about in context as far as power limits. What's kind of the average horsepower and what's the above average that...
He's asking the questions. That's perfect.
That's nice.
So let's say, for instance, on an 11 to 14 Mustang, okay, with our TVS kit, on an 82 millimeter pulley on pump gas, whether it be 47s or 56s, usually we like to reference the stage 2 kit, has 56s and a booster and a twin jet 67. You can see between 630 to 650 rear wheel horsepower on the free flow.
I'd say an 11 to 14, closer to 600, 630.
Okay.
The 15 ups will make
A little more.
615 to 645 on 93 if it's got exhaust, a little bit more.
Okay.
But to the end of the question, most cars will live a very long life, a average lifespan at the 600 to 630 wheel mark, 11 to 14, and 630 to 660 wheel mark, we'll call it on 15 up.
And we're comfortable with that number.
I think that helps put that in context a little bit more, and then the above average stuff is where...
It gets a little fuzzy.
Essentially, you're smoking 2 packs a day and your blood alcohol content is on average 2.0.
And
you may not die.
And eating a lot of sixlets.
Exactly.
No one knows. Right, put the sixlet.
Drinking a lot of Java chip mochas.
Exactly.
I had one before SEMA. Oh, that was a bad time. So basically, it's one of those things where, a GT500 though, let's talk about GT500. What do you see like on a Gen 2 swapped 07 and 09 with a 2.4 pulley? Let's just go max pulley on the blower. 2.4 pulley, 56s, boosters, and ID 1000s. What do you see on average with a decent flowing exhaust like long tubes or high flow cats?
If it's got long tubes, 670, 700 on decent fuel, moderate timing, we'll call it like 15 degrees on the safe side of things, they'll make 670 to 700 wheel. If you push them 17, they'll make 700, 710. But they'll live a long life at that level as long as you keep good quality fuel in it.
Right.
I don't think I've ever seen one pop at that level.
No.
Not unless intercooler pump went bad or someone's road racing it, beating the snot out of it or something like that.
Exactly.
But spinning it to 65, 6,700 RPM on a stock rotating assembly, But
11 to 12 about the same power level?
I'd say so. They seem to be able to get away with a little bit more because of the knock sensors in the wide bands.
True.
But the 07 to 10s are pretty reliable cars in terms of taking power for a while.
Right, exactly. You have any questions coming through, Justin, or is it still a little on the light
We've
side?
got one from Jason, and on a Coyote swap, can the heater hoses be plugged in, or do they need to be? Can they be plugged, or do they need to be looped?
I suppose whether or not you do that doesn't really matter because you're plugging them or you're looping them. At the end of the day, there's no radiator or heater circuit in there. Like
Yeah. I'll tell you, on Rebecca's car, they're looped. There's some restrictors in the hose, so I figured it was best to keep that coolant path going.
it doesn't hurt, but I don't think it's gonna be make or break on a setup.
That's actually a good question because next week we're going to have Frank Perdomo from Power by the Hour come up and give you all of the Coyote swap details. He's going to come up, spend the day, do the show just so that if you have any Coyote swap specific questions, I'm talking about brackets, I'm talking about transmission mounts, anything. He is like the knowledge for. Make sure you tune in next week. Frank Perdomo from Power by the Hour will be up here talking about everything Coyote swap, harnesses, you name it.
Accessory brackets.
Yeah, he's the guy. We know enough based on what we've seen. There's a couple of Herbology cars that have been here, real beautiful builds, and then a couple of other swap cars and companies that have us tune their cars that we can sort of kind of gauge some of the stuff. And we do sell swap parts from Power by the Hour. So we know enough, but that guy is the expert when it comes to Coyote swap stuff for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, that'll be good to have Frank here next week.
Yep, for sure.
Exactly.
We got a couple more questions coming in. Mike Roberts, Rebecca will actually be on Burnout Box Thursday evening, so you can ask her that question.
What was the question?
What did Rebecca's car weigh when it went 8.1?
Got it.
Okay.
And then Marcus Sanchez, how's the Gen 3 blower doing on the Gen 1 Coyotes? Joe, you did the initial dynoing and tuning on Track Attack with the Gen 3 at low boost. You want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, we haven't put a Gen 3 on an 11 to 14, but based on what I saw on the 15 to 17 car that we did, it would do the same thing that Gen 2R would do on a 11 to 14 car in terms of how much timing it would take, how much power it would make. It's not... Everything kind of goes in line with each other. Like a Gen 2R makes X amount on 11 to 14. A Gen 2R makes 15, 20 more on a 15 to 17. So the numbers that I made on low boost on Track Attack take 10, 15 horsepower away from that. Low boost at the same boost level on 11 to 14 is probably going to make 10 to 15 horsepower less on a setup like that. In terms of durability, similar to 15 to 17 as long as you keep things reasonable. Pump gas is going to be tricky on what I consider the weaker Coyotes, 1112s.
11-12s, yeah.
I don't know that I would recommend doing that unless you're okay with the possibility of bad things happening, because if I recall correctly, on the biggest pulley we'd currently made, 85 millimeter, it still was up around, I think it was 13.5 pounds.
Yeah, that's quite a bit on pump gas.
That's a lot for an 1112 motor. But if you have a 1314, there's quite a few guys running 13-14 pounds on good quality fuel with very healthy lifespans on the engine, and you'll make 30 to 50 more than what a Gen 2R would make on the
smallest pulley.
Yeah, on the same pulley.
Sorry, biggest pulley. Sorry, the 85.
The smallest amount of blower speed,
Right.
highest size pulley.
Exactly, and it was happy. I remember seeing the pump gas run on Track Attack. It was super easy, made a nice clean pull, made a good number. It was well in the 7s, I believe, but it had good sweet fuel in it. Pump gas, but it does have long tubes and a free-flowing exhaust. So that number, if you do that on the previous generation Coyotes, like he said, take away 30 or so horse, 20 to 30 horse, and it'll be sort of what you'll see. But 11 to 12, yeah, I had an 11. I didn't want to live much longer with that car at 720 wheel. Not that it's going to blow up, but I just don't know. It had 100,000 miles. I wasn't willing to push it that much harder.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's true. Your car went through a lot.
Yeah, 115,000 miles, and I was drag racing it, and before the rear end blew up, I put a 72 millimeter pulley on it, and I said, man, if it blows up, I don't want it to blow up because I wanted to sell it. And I was glad the rear end blew up because it kept me from chasing that number, and then I would have been down a motor and potentially a blower, because when the motor blows, everything goes. So it's not a good time.
Yeah.
We're starting to get a lot of questions in here, so I'm going to try to work through them a little bit quick.
Sure.
Okay.
Sal Ortega had a question. Are oil pump gears an issue on the GT500s like they are in Coyotes?
Not as often. I think it has to do with the RPM and the way that GT5 owners drive their car. Most GT5 owners I know short shift their cars.
Yeah.
They don't beat on them
But
like
this
5
is
liter
Salvador
guys do.
Ortega. He's sending it on Texas 2K all day, every day.
Exactly,
So
and if he doesn't have oil pumping gears,
He
oil
has-
pump gears in his car,
he
it's
better
a-
have oil pump gears.
It's a miracle he hasn't had an
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
yet.
I don't think he does. I think he's like has like a legit.
Well, doesn't he have a 6R80?
Yeah, but a legit stock long block.
Yeah,
But it's
if
better
he's-
than slamming it off the limiter each time.
Exactly.
And if you're going to do oil pump gears, you might as well do the cam gear too.
Yeah, and do cams. Screw it. Why not? Let's just send it.
Just all of it. But yeah, they
not
have
as-
been
not
known
as
to have
much.
problems, but not nearly to the degree that Coyotes do. But like I said, most GT500s I've seen drive their cars significantly differently from a 5 liter owner.
If you want to see oil pump gear failures on GT500, go to the mild events. If they're
Yeah.
going to fail, that's where they'll fail because they're in a high RPM for a long time. Talk to them, see what they say. But I've seen a couple failures at mile events, but I rarely see them on the street as much as Coyote.
So we got a question from Tim Nelson. Plug recommendations for 03 Cobra. Just purchased your 2.3 liter kit with a 4-pound lower and 3.3 upper. He's wondering the plug recommendation, the gap, and he'll be running pump gas 93.
And you said it was 4-pound lower, 3.0 upper?
3.3 upper.
Okay, so that'd be like a 2.9 upper pulley, up
About
around
18
19, 18, 19. I guess it depends on the mid pipe and stuff. GR 12YS gapped at, we'll call it 28, or like a BR7EF gapped at 28, or you could even run a TR6, but I'd rather see in a heat range of like a BR7EF or a GR12.
So Cat Tech Holt had a question about line pressure tuning for autos with SCT4s. That's a little bit of a...
It's the adjustable parameter on device. Isn't
Okay.
that one of the, like when you export CEF,
Yeah,
one of
and
the adjustable options is
Yeah.
Line pressure. Yeah. Don't touch it. Leave it
Yeah,
alone.
leave it set up how your tuner has it set up.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can really hurt anything, but there's not necessarily a whole lot to be gained there
Exactly.
No, you're going to change shift feel a little bit with that, but
I think SCT, similar to the Spark and everything, they only let you get away with so much, right?
Yeah.
They don't let you have all of the control. Even though you try to go global 5, the car's not going to see it because in the tune we overwrite that stuff and it'll do what we kind of are commanding it.
we can set the min-max limits on the adjustable parameters.
It doesn't let you go plus on the global
No,
at all.
It lets you pull from the global, but
Right.
not plus.
I'm going to do one more from Facebook and then swap to YouTube. We've got a question from Michael Nyberg on 2007. How can you monitor the intercooler pump temps? I had a friend with a GT500 that popped the motor because the intercooler pump failed and he didn't know until it was too late.
IAT2.
Yeah, is he talking 07 GT500 or a GT with a blower?
You know, I think he means GT500
That's what I'm
because of the
thinking.
friend dimension.
Right.
If he's looking for the parameter, he may have to get a configuration file set up on a live link to get it. I don't think a lot of SCT devices allow you to get to the downstream air temp DMR through just going through the list of PIDs. So connect your SCT device to the laptop, open up live link software, go down the list of required items for data logging. We have that posted on our website. Look for a orange DMR parameter called downstream air temp, and that should be the parameter you should be looking at if you're trying to keep an eye on that stuff.
Are any of them called air charge temp, ACT? Have you ever seen that on GT500?
I haven't seen air charge temp 2. I have seen inlet air temperature 2 on some strategies, but I find that the downstream air temp on 07 and 10s is usually a bit more prevalent than an IT2.
So going over to YouTube, Poor Boy has a 2013 GT manual. After downloading your tune, my car sat in the garage. Now that I'm about to bring it out, will my car have to go through a drive cycle or adaptive learning?
So I assume if he's worried about drive cycles or adaptive learning, he has a question about emissions.
He just said it sat in his garage.
So there's no real concern about that stuff. Your car's going to store CAM regardless of timeline. As long as you don't discharge the battery or reset CAM on the device, it should have CAM stored in there to where you don't
What's CAM?
You don't
Tell them what's
keep
CAM.
a live memory.
Right.
So essentially it has little adjustments and monitors that it learns, and it stores that everything's good in those little keep alive memory monitors that stay alive as long as you have battery power supply to the vehicle. You don't have to worry about any of that stuff getting deleted out of there unless you manually go in there and delete it or you disconnect the battery for a period of time.
And add to that, you can never lose a tune from disconnecting the battery. You just lose those little learned parameters.
Exactly.
Mark Davis has a question. Do you have a high flow elbow for the 15 to 17 Roush TVS?
No, because
No.
those are already big from the factory.
that 15 to 17 Roush blower is pretty good.
Yeah, and if I recall correctly, the code name for that blower is Mongoose. Is that Trinity?
I think that's Jackal. Mongoose was
Okay.
11 to 14, 15 to 17 is Jackal.
Okay, so yeah, we don't have a supercharger we don't have a supercharger inlet elbow for 15 to 17 Roush Jackal blowers.
And you can just swap our Twin Jet 67 on and go to town.
Yeah, the stock 15 to 17 Roush blower flows
It's
pretty well.
badass, yeah.
Tony's got a question. Anything on the Coyote tank drain tool? I'll answer that too.
There you
because
go.
they're
That's a question for you.
sitting in my office. Yes, we just got those in, so we'll
Nice.
get them up on the website. They'll be available.
Do you know what pricing is going to be on those?
I'm thinking probably $29.99 or something pretty simple.
It's super convenient. Any shop can get it, plug it in, drains the fuel out. It's like a jumper basically, and it makes the fuel pumps activate. You can drain it out, swap over to 85.
Right in. You don't have to worry about manually pinning stuff,
Waiting
or
for a tune
jumper
or
wires or
something.
anything. If
Right.
you keep it in your car, you could essentially do that at the gas station if you really felt so frisky as to do something like that. But you wouldn't have to change your tune or anything. It's pretty sweet.
So Paul Mazzara has a 14 GT500 with a VMP Stage 4 kit, and he's asking about stock exhaust versus long tubes. Will it lose back pressure, and will it make more power with the loss in boost? Can 93 handle it, or are we at the limit of 93 now?
I know a certain guy sitting behind a computer that did back pressure testing on GT500s back in the day with stock manifolds. You care to speak to any of that?
Yeah, so Paul, you're going to lose back pressure. That car makes so much power and torque and boost, you're not going to notice really any ill effects of it unless you're driving at really light throttle, and you're going to give it more throttle naturally, and you're not going to notice it. So
You will lose back pressure, but you will make more power with long tubes.
yeah,
Is that
you'll
the
make
basics?
a lot more power, and the 93 is fine. It's actually better with the less back pressure and the less boost. It's more efficient. So
No concerns.
No concerns of losses, more so focus on the gains because you're not going to feel the losses in back pressure.
I've heard that a lot where people say, well, I don't want to lose boost. Well, I'm like, it's a measure of restriction, but I don't even know if they know what that means. And I'm not going to get into it. Like a lot of people say, well, I was making 18 PSI, now I'm making 16. But
You need to fix that in the tune.
But you're making 30 more rear wheel horse. So what's the problem? But they're fixated on the boost number.
yeah, I mean, flow goes up.
Yeah.
As a supercharger designer and manufacturer, we always want to see boost down. We want the engine to flow as good as possible. And because the supercharger becomes more efficient, air temps get lower.
Yep.
Exactly.
Next.
So pulley size not changing. You want to see your boost drop if you want to see gains, not boost increase to get gains.
Yeah. I mean, you'll naturally get those gains from the airflow being better.
Yep.
Danny Monge has a non-drag radial street tire recommendations. He's mainly street driving, occasional track day, and regular street hooning. Well, I'm not sure exactly what all those different things are, but you guys have any recommendations for tires?
Besides the R888, which is his go-to all the freaking time. Holy
Such
crap.
a good tire.
The Nitto G2 has actually been a decent tire that
It
I've
has.
seen out there. I'd stay away from anything else Nitto, unless the G2, the Continental Sport that comes in the GT. Conti,
The extreme contact like DRW.
not the twos that are like on Track Attack, but the ones that come stock in GT350s.
Oh, you're saying Michelin Pilot Sports.
Sorry, Pilot Sports. Those are great all-around tire because the GT350 did everything. It did track stuff. It did drag racing.
We lifted a tire on those tires.
Exactly.
You see what I did there?
Yeah, and it's a great all-around tire. So that is Michelin Pilot Sport, not the Cup 2s. Those are way too aggressive, right?
Well, you could do Cup 2s. They're just super expensive,
Yeah.
and they're going to wear out quicker than a Pilot Sport.
So a Pilot Sport, G2 are the ones we've dealt with and had good experience with. But I'm sure there's others out there that do just as good.
And those are up in the 19, 20-inch sizes. If you're
Yep.
going down to like an 18 or 17, I think some of those Continentals got kind of a sticky tire, or an R888.
Or Dunlop makes like a REZ 127AS. It's a similar compound to an 888, except the tread pattern's different.
Okay.
But all things to look into. At the end of the day, it's like shoes.
Yeah, Nike's a Reebok.
Yep.
Adam Kelly. Hey, Alex, I'm a big fan. Can you describe in more detail the procedure to do a crank position reset after replacing the clutch with an SCTX4?
With an SCTX4, okay. Basically, when you plug in the SCTX4, key on, don't turn the car on, or you can turn the car on. Make sure you have no check engine lights pre-existing. The moment you have a check engine light pre-existing, it will not let you go to a crank relearn. On the SCT device, you go to the Special Functions tab, and in there it will have a crank relearn option. You basically hit OK, and on the screen, it will ask you to hit a target RPM. I believe it's like 4,200 or 4,500 or whatever.
And you should mention the fact that before it gets to that step, it will tell you to return rev limiters and everything to stock.
Yep, and make sure your AC is off and everything.
Yep.
Yep. It wants
But
to just be
the only
hanging out.
time the rev limiter stuff is an issue is if you're running a neutral limiter or a two-step.
Right.
Other than when we tune the car,
We
that's
don't
the only
have-
time
yeah.
it would be an issue.
Exactly.
But if you don't have a neutral rev limiter set to like 4,000 or a two-step, you don't have to worry about reloading any rev limiter stuff
limiters
to
or
stock. Don't
anything.
even bother reaching out to us to ask us. You should be good to go to do a crank relearn with one of our tuners.
And then you'll
but-
just rev the engine after it prompts you to do so to the target RPM. It doesn't have to be slow like a slower. If it can just go rev right up to it,
Come
come
right
back
back
down, and it's done. Literally done. As long as you're, the mass in the back isn't like all wavy and you have like an insanely out of balance clutch, you should be all done.
That, and if at first you do it and it immediately says no, don't give up at that point.
Right.
Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 times to get it to complete the crank relearn properly. So I'd say if you can't get it to do it within 5 times, maybe try it a different day or reach out. But
Typically, you should be able to
typically
get it.
within 3 times it goes.
And I don't think you can really hurt anything by trying to do a crank relearn.
No, you'll throw a PO 315 for a crank variation not learned, but that's not necessarily a bad thing.
Right.
So poor boy has another question. Alex, since your car is an automatic, do you paddle shift it?
No, because it's an automatic.
Boop, drive,
Yeah,
go.
drive, and if I want to, paddle shifting is only if I want to force it into a gear. Let's say if I'm in 5th gear going down the highway at 60 and I really want to force it into 6th, go ahead. I don't downshift, it's an auto. I don't downshift, paddle, nothing. The paddles to me are useless, honestly.
77 Ford Bug, 2015 Mustang NA E85 tuned. What are your spark plug recommendations? He's looking at brisk and he's thinking about gapping at 36.
Stock stuff works just fine, but if
Yeah.
you want to put a different plug in it, a brisk RR14YS I think is the hottest brisk that we carry. I'd run that, gapped it 35, 36 should be fine.
Cars and couches. I want
Nice.
to live at 700 wheel horsepower on my 16 GT S550.
Okay.
On the VMP Gen 3 kit, will I be able to achieve that with 93 pump, or is it just going to be easier and healthier to go E85? Will I need a return style fuel system with 93 or E85? I'm currently NA, catless, long tubes, 47-pound injectors with an MT82.
I think you can achieve 700 wheel with a Gen 3. It all depends on how sweet the pump gas is in his area.
And you're going to need exhaust in my mind to do that.
Which he says he has long tubes, catless. So yeah, I think you're pretty good to make in the 700 range with the Gen 3. You'll probably need one of the bigger pulleys because it is insanely efficient and makes a good chunk of power at low rotor speed. So I think it's possible. Now, do you need a return style fuel system on pump gas? I don't think you need it. If you can swing it and want insurance, fine, but our stage 2 kits or stage 3 kits will be coming with a fuel pump voltage booster. I had a fuel pump voltage booster for 3 years or 2 years or something like that, no issues. But I don't think you'll need it. Now, is it safer and more desirable for tuners for someone to go E85? Absolutely. Will you need a return style fuel system for E85? Fuel system.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So basically, all the answers to the questions are yes. Yes, you can make 700 on pump gas.
As long as it's good pump
As long
gas.
as it's good pump gas, not some marathon junk from somewhere or some, whatever.
Then for everyone else watching, don't take that out of context. We're talking about a car with exhaust on 93. We're not saying your stock exhaust car at 91 is going to
Right.
make 700. We're saying this guy's specific car is probably going to be good to make 700.
And if you're going to go E85, we'd love it because it's going to make a ton of power and allow us to just shove the spark down its throat without a problem. But you will need a return style fuel system at that point from 4 Innovations.
Yep.
So We've got a question from Brian George. Thoughts on water meth injection on supercharged Coyotes and any brand suggestion?
You tell them what the deal is because you've had actually a lot of dealings with them. Our answer is always no because a lot of people think you can shove a lot more spark, like a lot, substantial.
Ignore the knock sensors, just throw timing in my car.
Yeah, and we hear that all the time in the tuning ticket system where they say, well, I have meth, how come it didn't make another 80 horse? You've seen some gains on meth on GT500, but what do you think is the benefit on a PD blower setup?
So, my first thought is anytime you put water into the combustion chamber, water doesn't burn. It moves the MBT point farther out, and so now spark has to be much higher to make the same power, not more power, the same power. If you're going to do it, I do straight meth. I don't like to adjust the tune much because if that system fails, then you're going to be lean and you're going to be over sparked. If I was road racing a lot with a PD blower car or in a certain situation, I might put a little shot of water meth in there for extra insurance. But as long as I had good 93 or race gas or E85 available, I probably just wouldn't mess with it. I mean, all of our VMP stuff is designed with triple pass heat exchangers to reject the heat, dual fans. We're a big fan of making the whole system efficient without any, I don't call them Band-Aids, but, accessory type stuff.
Yeah, this isn't the 90s with non-intercooled blower setups where you got to do something to help keep things cooled off.
Yeah, I mean, technology is a lot different these days.
The reason I wanted you to answer the question is because what happens a lot is Joe gets asked the question, and then they don't want to like his answer. Then they come to me, and they don't like my answer. And then they go to the boss man, and they hear the same thing from the three. It's a clear message. We all think the same thing about meth, okay? Water meth kids. So don't go emailing 15 people. You're going to get the same answer within the same company because we have a company-wide kind of thought process. We share, all this stuff.
Yeah, we've all been here when we've done the setups. We all know what they do and what they don't do on the
Yeah, and I mean, if you have it on your car, we'll still tune your car. Just don't expect it to make a miracle difference in the performance.
Exactly. And I've seen it cool air charge down a tiny bit, but I've never seen, at least on a PD blower car, it add a significant amount of allowable timing on pump gas.
Exactly.
So, next question, Matt G. What do you all have in the works as far as developmental or prototype parts for the Roush 2650 for the 2018?
Oh.
Any plans to make pulleys, cooling, throttle bodies, etc.?
I feel like that's kind of your boat. I don't know what I can speak to.
Right.
Oh gosh, Matt.
We know there's stuff happening. We just don't know what we can mention.
Matt, that's the answer is all of the above. So more on that as things develop. We should go drive the 2018 around with the blower after the show, Joe.
You're right.
I drove it around the parking lot. It gets in a boost just fine.
Do they know we have an 18 with a blower on it?
I was going to do a little video of that. I just haven't got a chance to yet.
Okay, yeah, exactly. So, by the way, we have an 18 with a blower on it. Go ahead.
Yeah. I wasn't sure if we were supposed to say that.
Yeah, say.
Okay, we have
It's out there now.
We have an 18 Mustang automatic, the silver one, a gray one that we went 1150s with. It has a Ford Performance Roush blower. I don't know, how do we call it? A Ford Performance / Roush blower?
Or is
like
it
that.
Roush
Something like
/
that.
Ford
Yeah,
Performance?
exactly. We have a front feed 2650 in the car, running and driving. So we're going to do some testing on it.
And I think one of the expectations is that we should set ahead of time. 18 is totally different than 11 to 17. The Gen 3, the VMP Gen 3 2650 is it's a whole other animal, and it's for the older cars only at this point because it just doesn't fit under the hood of an 18.
Right.
Yeah.
The DI system's all in the way. The hood's in the way.
Yeah.
It's all in the way.
Everything's in the way.
Exactly.
Have to do front feed.
Hayden says, Alex, when dailying your S197 Gen 2R Mustang, did you ever have any large issues, and would you supercharge your daily driven car again?
I had a Gen 2, not a Gen 2R. I owned it when I was in Houston, drove in that 110, 115 degree summer with the triple pass and never got above 135 downstreams. When I got to Florida, drove it another 40,000 miles when I got it here. That blower never came off the car except to change injectors one time, and that's it. And I literally love that car. That car was so trouble-free, so easy, just put gas in it and go. I don't even think I replaced the belt like until like way later.
Yeah, you were like probably 30, 40,000 miles on the belt. We were doing
yeah.
something else to the car, and we just changed the belt while we were there.
I think I might have just looked at the belt. I think during the injector change, I said, let me just throw a belt at it. And I'm telling you, that was great. Now I have an S550, and I drive that car a lot. And I drive that car on currently a Gen 3 E85 return style system. Same thing. Just drive it, get in it, and go. I don't ever have to open the hood for anything, tighten any clamps, nothing. It just works, and that's why I love the setup.
Ryan Neville, what do I need to get my SCT X4 tuner that was used on my 12 Mustang GT to work on my 2016 Mustang GT?
Did you say SCT X4?
Yeah.
Okay.
Better make sure it's unmarried or divorced.
Yeah, I like saying make sure that it's divorced from the car it was previously with. If it's not currently divorced, you can send it back to SCT. They charge a divorcing fee.
Like an attorney.
Yep, it's $150. Last I checked, to have a device reflash to where it can be married again to a new vehicle. But just do a device update if your device is clean and free, and hook it up to the car. I don't know if your previous tuner disabled preloads on your device. If you have preloads on the device and you've connected it to the car and you've done an update, feel free to play around with preloads. If not, we'll be happy to get you set up with an NA tune. I believe pricing on that's $200 if you already have a device.
Yeah, level 1 VMP custom tune.
Yeah.
Right off the website.
We have some super sweet tunes for 15 to 17 cars.
I put our NA tunes up against anybody's. They're just badass. I love them. Our blower tunes are very, very good also. So, but the NA stuff, I've seen people like Nickel White. I've seen people like Ben Calmer at the time. Straight get it, NA. So I'm really proud of those tunes.
It's a whole new animal, NA. You'd be surprised what it'll do. Yeah. So I got another question here from Man O' War, and I'll answer this one. Do you guys have plans to release a TVS blower based off the Gen 4 Eaton blower in 2018? So our VMP Gen 3 is 2650 based. The Gen 4 Eaton blower, I'm not sure what. Gen 4 sounds older. I think Eaton's up to 6 or 7.
Yeah, I think it's Gen 7 or Gen 8 on TVS.
Yeah. So we're using the latest stuff, 2650 for our GT500 and our older 5-liter kits, and then working with Roush on the 2018 2650 blower. Dre Day. Any update on when the Gen 3 complete kits will be available? We're going to get that finalized this week and put them up on the website for order.
Perfect.
Dre, that's going to be a stage 3 kit with a Gen 3 head unit.
We're putting them together as we speak. No, like we're actually putting things in boxes so that when you get it, everything is just good to go. Plug it in and go.
Yeah.
And I believe Chris is working on videos for Gen 3s right now. One of the guys you don't see behind the scenes right now.
Yeah, he owns a Jetta. It's all good. A Golf?
Isn't it a Golf?
Okay.
He gets Mustangs though, so we keep him around.
Exactly.
Matt G, who makes a 30-inch tall slick for a 17-inch wheel?
30-inch for a 17-inch.
I think he's F-150 boy, because that's been a topic of conversation on like high-performance F-150.
Don't they make a 29 for a 17?
I want to say
Hoosier?
No, Mickey Thompson makes like a 315, like 50-17.
You've seen those GTRs.
Oh, that's like a lightning tire.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I want to say it's like a 29.5 or a 30-inch tire that Mickey Thompson makes. It's
so what
not
are GTRs using? Remember the GTRs at 2K? They had a tall 17 or 18-inch.
I want to say that's a 28-inch 17. I don't think that's quite a 29 or 30.
That's a big boy.
It just looks big on those cars because typically they have 19s that are like a 27-inch diameter.
Okay.
So you shove a 17-inch wheel with a bunch of rubber on the sidewall. It's like, damn.
I wanted to take a look because some of those cars are running a slick. Most GTRs are running a slick. Yes, an auto with a slick. Who would have thought it? Or what do you call it? A DSG or whatever they call it. Twin. Yeah, exactly. But I'd have to look at what those GTRs are running just to see what that 17 and up market with a lot of sidewall is like.
So Justin asks, any recommendations for an air intake to use with the 0304 Cobra that has a VMP 2.3 liter with the GT500 style throttle body and inlet elbow?
JLT Next Gen Cold Air or Ram Air with the adapter that we sell on our website to go from a 5-inch throttle body opening to a 4.5-inch cold air intake opening.
Baffy's Bondat has a question. Hey guys, is there any benefit to getting a BAP with 47-pound injectors on a boosted 2011 GT?
Yeah, of course, because Roush does that similar to on their phase 2. Basically, phase 1 Roush is an 85 with a closed air box and no BAP, and the phase 2 is open air box 80 millimeter with a BAP. So it's always good to have that little headroom for sure.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm going to take a break from YouTube for a minute. The questions are just piling in,
Good.
guys.
Let's crank.
Go back to Facebook.
Subscribe
Like, share.
while you're all sitting there, just
Ray
looking at our pretty
Hughes.
faces.
What do you recommend for drag racing suspension on the S550? I currently have adjustable Roush coilovers, but I'm not sure if they will suffice. Also, what trans do you recommend for an auto swap? I'm coming from a Magnum XL swap. What all is needed?
Wow.
So you drove Track Attack with the Roush coilovers on the back of it. How did you like that being a manual car?
Being a manual car and at the track, it just worked. Now we do have an NT05 drag radial. Yeah, nothing too aggressive that stuck too much because we wanted to make sure we kept it street friendly. And it has nothing done to the rear, and I was able to cut 1.7s. Now that isn't setting the world on fire, but those coilovers, they just worked. I was able to cut 1.7s.
Do you ever have any issues with wheel hop or anything?
Gosh,
on the
no,
setup?
no, because I slipped the clutch. Now, if you have a slick, now we're talking a completely different ball game. Now you're gonna have to have everything back there stiffened up. Whether you use UPR or you use Steeda, you did links, toe links, maybe the stop the hop kit or the UPR complete S550 rear suspension setup, and some dampening control. That's the main thing. Dampening control on these cars as S550 need to be really, kind of reined in because the axles can, you can have a bad time if you have any wheel hop. The Vikings did help a lot, keeping everything stiff back there. If you look at how the car launches now, you don't see a lot of the fenders don't really get close to the tire anymore. The quarter panels, they actually have a gap there all the way through the pull. So I would recommend anything UPR, Steeda back there, and then keep the coilovers. They seem to work pretty damn well, and you can adjust the ride height. So I think it's an added benefit.
And then he was asking about an auto swap.
Auto swap. So he has a T56 and he wants to get rid of that?
Yeah.
6R80. You throw a 6R80 in there, but you'd have to do the whole thing. Reprogram the computer, reprogram the ABS. Your display on the dash might or might not work depending on who's tuning it because the manuals don't have the PRNDS template.
Well, do you
there.
know if you can flash the instrument cluster module to get
think
that to change?
That's what you're going to have to get with someone that has access to an IDS tool and all that stuff at Ford to work. We cannot do that, but if you have a friend at Ford or someone who's really snazzy with the IDS tool, you might be able to program it with a automatic strategy, the right module, the ABS, and throw a 6R80 in there. There's a gentleman in Texas that literally just did that. One of our customers swapped it all over. All I had to do on my end was tune it with an auto strategy. He was done. Yeah,
Nice.
it was easy.
So we got another question from Ivan. What is needed to convert a 2013 GT500 to run E85?
Well, 2013, well, actually boosters.
Yeah,
the 91,000s.
It depends on how much power the car is making. If he's like,
Let's say stock pulley.
if it's stock pulley, ID1050Xs and a booster setup, and then a tune for E85 and the E85 fuel.
If you're going to try to do a 2.4, what do you think about that? 2.4 with E85.
I know people that have done it. It's definitely close. You'll see fuel pump duty cycle get pretty high up towards the top end of the pole, but I've seen a lot of cars get away with it for a while. So I would cautiously say it's possible with a 2.4 upper on the stock blower. I would definitely rather see a return fuel system in the car with at least twin Volvo 465s and a probably 4 hat. I don't know many other people that make it, but 4 makes a great hat. If you're tuned by us, there's things I can do to keep you from having to buy a controller. Just buy a controller. I can do it, but I don't know.
Yeah, make it easy. Make it easy.
We'll just make it easy. Buy a controller. We'll get you set up properly in the tune and get you hooked up running on the 85 pretty consistently.
So next question is from our friend Dorian Johnson. What are some numbers on the Gen 3 on the VMP truck or Joe's truck coming? When are those numbers coming?
I don't know.
I know someone knows some numbers on a Gen 3.
There's Gen 3 numbers on trucks somewhere, but they're not on my truck.
Yeah, they're in a vault somewhere. Whenever that person wants to speak to it, that we'll let them speak up. But as of now, me and Joe can't say nothing.
Dorian, I've got some of those numbers. They're just we're gonna get them a little higher because we're gonna go really fast with that truck and just blow our own record out of the water for 15 to 17 using the new VMP Gen 3. So all that stuff's forthcoming.
Very good.
We've got a question from Justin Mirror. Hey guys, I've got a Gen 2 Stage 3 kit with stock exhaust manifolds on a 2013 Coyote. Would moving to long tubes have any effect on IAT2 numbers?
No.
It shouldn't within any good controlled test.
Right, no. Easy
he's
answer.
going to lose a tiny bit of boost, which is not a bad thing, but
Right.
it's not going to.
It's not going to matter so much for like 20 degrees or 10. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doug Stroud, have you tried the L&M intake?
Intake only cams, I'm assuming he means.
I guess that's what he means. I think there's a car out in the shop that's getting those.
Intake
I
only.
want to say
cams?
that is.
That would be Mr. Jules' car. It might be getting intake only.
I think it's the other guy that's getting intake only cams. I think,
Okay.
I don't know what's going in the Jules car, but I believe it's the other guy that's getting intake only. Brian was talking to me about that.
They seem to work, especially on boosted applications. We've seen Sean explain the theory behind the intake cams is basically keeping the intake valve open longer to get more air in there, and it just makes more power based with the cam as opposed to with the tune. But we haven't done like legit back-to-back testing, and I think we'll get the opportunity to do so coming up shortly with this build. I
Exactly.
believe so.
Trenton Lambeth, best way to approach spark tuning on 2011 up Coyote. Add to borderline tables until you see approximately what timing you want, or reformat all the spark tables so the values in the borderline tables are exactly what gets run. Hope this question makes sense.
I know what he's trying to say, but that's all dependent on everything else, right? Like cam timing, torque, a little bit of everything. It's not just spark.
Ish. It depends on how good you are at doing what you're trying to do. If you're data logging it with histograms that aren't set up properly, and you're data logging it for each weighting factor, or you're not data logging it for each weighting factor, that's going to change delivered timing at like part throttle cruise and stuff like that. But if you're just doing watt timing changes on an 11 to 14 car, should be fairly simple to do. You can do it a couple different ways. Just try and keep your IATs within the same reasonable range when you're doing all your back-to-back testing on timing, just to make sure that you're not getting an IAT function pulling timing or adding timing, or an ECT function adding or pulling timing. You can do borderline OP base timing plus spark adder AFR, or you can do no spark adder AFR at
Shove it all in
your
the
commanded
BKT.
lambda, and do it all through BKT.
I've seen 3 or 4
But-
different ways to have it done, and they all have similar effects. It's all depending on how you want to bake the cake.
It's all about the end result. You can put 3 ounces of sugar or 3 ounces of Splenda in it, as long as your end result's the same. Does it really matter?
Right.
I like to think that doing it with a spark adder air fuel table is a little bit more, in my mind, on the safe side, because then it won't add the timing in until it's commanding that lambda. So
Right.
that if you're at, we'll call it 1.0 lambda at 1.5 load, and for whatever reason it doesn't want, you're not in the entry criteria to command watt fueling.
Right.
You're not going to see 17 degrees at 1.5 load at 1,000 RPM.
So it all depends also
Yeah.
what your knock sensors are doing too. Are you adding through the knock sensor? Or are you just saying screw the knock sensors, let me add it?
Yeah.
There's no right or wrong way. I'm just saying it just like he said.
Well, the wrong way is blowing it up.
Yeah, the wrong way is just shoving it down his throat and saying screw it. I've seen tables that say just 30 straight across the deal, and I'm just like, okay, that's not gonna, it idles at 30 and a watt at 30, okay.
Oh, man.
But there's many different ways that I've seen that work, but I can't tell you a right way, because there's many different ways. Like I said, baking a cake.
So, next question. 2017 S550 with a Roush TVS. I'm thinking about going to a Sire return fuel system, ID 1050s, and a Lund E85 tune.
Okay.
What is the smallest pulley I can run safely, and when should I upgrade the oil pump gears?
69 on an S550 with a Silease fuel system. If you have a really cold day, let's say if you're in mine shaft air in Maryland, you might start to see that fuel system, kind of show its weak points a little bit. That's why
And if you're running that pulley, definitely boost reference.
absolutely boost
Don't run
reference
that
always.
55 psi.
Yeah.
No reference. If you're running that amount of boost, definitely throw a reference.
But
on
for
there.
anything above a 69 millimeter pulley, I think you're good on that fuel system. That fuel system, even he'll tell you it's limited to a certain horsepower number. But the lowest you can go on the 85 is a 69, and as long as you have adequate fuel, the car should be happy.
So Juan says, I'm thinking about swapping an F-150 Coyote into a 73 Mach 1. What would I need for the Coyote besides Mustang cams and headers?
That would be a great question for next week.
Next
when
week,
Frank's
yeah,
week.
tune in next week. It's Coyote Swap Heaven, so tune in next week for that one.
So,
So if you want to get a notification of when that's going,
You like, share, and subscribe.
subscribe, like, share.
There you go.
Because if you subscribe to our YouTube page, when we start the feed, you'll get
pops
a
up.
little notification, so you don't even have to remember to look. look. If you look down at your phone, oh, hey, they're live. Now I can get an answer to my question.
So we got another question that's along the same vein as some of this other stuff. Oriel Castro asks, what's needed to convert a 2011 GT to E85?
Fuel system and injectors in a tune. Or if it's an 11 GT NA,
Tune.
injectors in the tune, because you need injectors on 11 and 14.
So we got kind of a long one from Lando Ortega. Best way to get started into tuning. Schools, what's your input? I read all my logs. I understand quite a bit of what's happening, but leave the rest to my tuner. By the way, Joe tuned my car.
Don't follow my path. I'm just saying I would, Justin, how did you get into tuning? Like real quick, how did you even think of like getting into tuning? I know you were into computers and all that, but how did you even broach that subject where you said, yeah, I might look into tuning cars?
So Alex, we're both Star Trek nerds.
Yep.
So we like science.
Yep.
And you kind of stumbled into tuning, and I actually kind of did too. I was racing and modifying my car, and somebody said to me, somebody very well known from back in the day, why don't you tune your own car? And I'm like, okay.
Right.
And I started working at SCT, and it just kind of all went from there.
Right. I started talking crap on the internet, and that's how I got it. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of great resources out there, tuning schools. Honestly, I learned by doing, and I think that's the way my brain works. So other people just are smart and pick it up quickly. But if you know someone that's a tuner or have access to some tuning software with someone, just literally attach yourself to the side. And if it's something that you think is for you, because it is not like this glamorous thing, right? They all think this like we're like out there tuning Vipers and making horsepower, and just dancing and just girls booty popping everywhere. It's not how it is.
It's probably like that about 10% of the time.
Yeah, just a little bit, right? But it's literally you in front of a computer looking over data, non-stop, and you have to immerse yourself in it and just really get into it. And everything else has to be kind of closed off for you to be good at it.
And a lot of data and a lot of looking for patterns and figuring things out. It helps to have strong mechanical skill. That's where Joe came from. He got how a car worked, knew how to work on them. Tuning was a natural thing for him to learn. So there's a lot of ways to skin that cat, but you either get it or you don't, is the way I look at it.
Yeah, I'd say if you don't already have a very strong mechanical background or a very good understanding of how gasoline combustion engines work, then definitely take classes in terms of like theory on fuel injection tuning. Definitely pick up a couple books, try and absorb as much information as you can before you start trying to do it yourself, and then try and get some application experience. And that's unless you know someone that does it and you can watch them like a hawk.
That's the only other way that I know.
Yeah.
Getting in there.
Get some good theory and then learn by doing preferably on your own stuff.
And send your resume to VMP.
Yes,
We're always hiring tuners.
Always hiring, always busy, for sure.
Yeah, there's only two of us. We need more.
Gino Davis, 2018 GT Automatic 700 rear wheel horsepower. Will the stock axles hold up?
2017?
2018.
18 GT Automatic. What's done to the car?
At 700 rear wheel horsepower.
No. Get axles. What's wrong with you? Because all you need is one little bit of wheel hop. That's all.
Yep, as you saw in Texas.
Or as you saw, Lethal Performance broke it on the 1-2 shift. So, depending on how firm you're
especially
shifting.
with the auto in drag mode, that's a
You'll
wheel hopping ass shift.
Exactly. So if I were you, I'd definitely look into get some axles. G-Force, we have them in stock. G-Force axle. We have the 1200 horsepower versions, and I currently have the 800s that they're holding up well, but I'm going to need to upgrade it, and I know this.
Yeah.
Benny has a question. Best throttle bodies for a 2007 Shelby GT500.
Well,
It just so happens
that we have the TJ67 or twin jet 67 millimeter throttle body. I have literally seen less issues with that throttle body than any other in terms of drivability, hardware failures, or anything like that. I just had a customer made 820 wheel on a throttle body like that.
Through an auto.
On good fuel, obviously, but it's like the best all-around throttle body. People with Cobra Jet setups have it, and they swear by it. People with our stage 1, 2, 3 kits swear by it. Only when you're trying to really let them hang will you need anything bigger where the car is asking for it. But for the 90% of people out there that have our blower kit or even a older Whipple 2329, that, in my opinion, that's the throttle body to go with.
And he said he had an 07 GT500, correct?
Yep.
So that twin jet 67 millimeter throttle body is a direct bolt-on for your car. There's very little, if any, tuning changes needed to run that throttle body if you're already tuned. And just works. If you wanted to go crazy with the car, we have other throttle body options coming out in the near future that would work great for a race or like a drag racing application where you're wanting to make all the power possible. But for a street driven car that's, we'll call it sub 800 wheel,
Right.
we have that Twin 67 works fantastic.
So Rami wants to say, Alex, thanks for the tune. He'll get you some results on Thursday.
Yeah, he
Nice.
was the one that just made 820 wheel through an auto on a 2015.
Shannon Dugan, Alex, what car would you choose? 79 to 86 Fox body or 87 to 93 Fox body?
That's the real tell.
79 to 86, 4i for life.
Jeremy McCoy, 2014 F-150 Does it make a good difference to do a tune and a cold air? And what setup do you recommend?
Ask Donny. Donny was like, oh my God, the tune was like, woke it right up.
Oh, I
can't
thought you were
believe-
saying Renfro. I'm like, you got a truck?
No, I say my Donny when
Yeah,
it's Donny
okay.
Renfro. Yes.
11 to 14 truck, big difference. 15 truck, big difference. The 15 trucks, I'd recommend a PMOS cold air intake for one of those or a JLT. And the 11 to 14 trucks, JLT or PMOS for either of those. The K&Ns of the world, not that they're necessarily a bad intake, but because they're a no tune required intake that doesn't change the mass airflow sensor to account for the changes that you would normally have to make in the tune, they don't seem to be as high in the gains department as a larger mass airflow housing cold air intake setup and filter setup is.
So you're saying, yeah, a tune, good custom tune, and tune required intake is the
Yep.
ticket.
Yep.
Yeah, those trucks pick up a lot of power and a lot of
literally
fuel.
are like, I cannot believe how much of a difference it made.
Yeah,
So-
Donnie was practically crying when he had to put his tune back on when he brought it back to the dealer, or put his stock tune back
Back
on.
in the truck.
Yeah.
Doug Stroud, what kind of gains are you seeing with cams and Coyotes?
All of them.
So on the Pulley combo that I just tuned on a gentleman's car in Puerto Rico, that number, actually Rami's car is a 770 wheel car on the 85 and a 69 millimeter pulley through an auto. His customer's car made 50 more wheel with com cams.
So if you want to compare it to LS land, you make about half the gain installing a cam that you do on the cam head setup on
Yep.
LS stuff, because
Yep.
you'll see like 125 horsepower gained with a cam. You gain about 50 to 100 on a Coyote setup.
Yep.
And then it naturally aspirated, not quite 50.
Yeah,
I'd
not
say
quite
probably
50.
closer to 20 to
20.
30, but on boosted setups, about 50.
Mike Roberts, do I have do I still have my GT350? So this question's for me.
Yep.
My
'Cause I don't have
GT350 was awesome. I left it stock except for a tune, and I traded it in 4 months ago to get a 2018 for the shop.
There you
Yep.
go.
So that's the story. Now, Michael at L&M is working on cams for that flat plane crank GT350.
Oh, man.
Because that would have been the one cool thing to do to my car.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Or a TBS.
yeah.
Although you did do what we hate talking about so much, a ghost cam tune to that car.
Yes.
I bet that's like I was loping.
Yeah, yeah. You can smell the cats. You're like, woo wee.
Yeah, I did the same thing on my truck, and I was like, ooh, those
Yeah,
cats do not like that. I'm going to pull that right back off.
Exactly.
Barry Funk's got a question. I've got the Gen 2 blower on my GT500. What's the brisk spark plug lifespan typically like? I'll answer that one real quick, Barry. We put brisks in the F-150, which I think we've gone 20 or 25,000 miles on a set of brisks.
Hard miles.
That's, yeah, I mean, towing, racing, silly stuff. In a GT500, a little higher horsepower application, but lower mileage, I'd probably put a new set in every 10 to 15,000 miles.
And I'm at that same point with spark plugs. To me, it's like a regular maintenance item, not something you should be looking at as a reoccurring maintenance cost. You have a car that makes over 500 horsepower. Do your due diligence, change your plugs at regular intervals, 10 to 15,000 miles.
Tommy Blakely's got a question. Would you guys be able to do an email tune for a 2004 supercharged Celine? Not a common car, so just wondering if an email tune is possible.
It is possible.
I did one in the UK last year, and like two revisions in, it was done. I was like, well, okay, sweet.
Yeah.
He was happy.
On a setup like that, we do prefer to see wideband. That would be a level 3 tune. It is not a factory supercharged. Oh, it came from Celine like that.
No.
It didn't leave Ford factory where it was built with a blower, so that'd be level 3 tuning with preferably with a wideband that's analogued in through an SCT.
So kind of what Joe's saying is really, with level 3 tuning, you're paying for more attention on your tune because you've got a more complicated setup.
Yep.
Exactly.
We
If
want to be
I
able to
if I'm looking at multiple data logs with wideband data and going through the process of telling you how to hook that up, what to look for, when to let out, when to stay in it, the amount of data logs we're going to be into it requires that I get a certain amount of money so that we make sure we're actually
Cover all the bases.
we're covering everything that we need to do on that setup.
Our good friend Dwayne Hickman has a statement to make.
Dwayne Hickman. He
Dwayne
wants
Hickman,
Gen
statement.
3. Let me guess. He wants a Gen 3.
I have a built GT500 with the blower off right now. Just saying.
Right. His
So-
car would be, honestly, that guy races the crap out of that car. He
Yeah.
is racing all the freaking time. So he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that'd be a sweet car to have a Gen 3 on, Dwayne.
All right, just send us $39.99 and we're good to go.
Yeah. Exactly. Gary Angelos, 91 Fox body in the 650 to 700 horsepower region. Choice between a built 351 Windsor with heads and a Century blower versus a Coyote stock with a TVS blower.
Coyote stock with a TVS blower.
Yep.
Because it won't split in half. You'll get better gas mileage.
Significantly
way
better
better gas. You don't have to smell like gas every time you go see your girlfriend. I mean, trust
Why
me.
do you smell like a weed whacker?
You smell terrible. Oh, I do have a Fox body. You know,
It's the Fox Body cologne.
Exactly. Coyote.
It's
Coyote.
Gucci.
Coyote. It'll last longer. It'll get better fuel mileage. It's just trust me. Just the push rod is great. I love it, but it doesn't compare to the Coyote in terms of efficiency.
So I know this next guy, Andrew Vincent. What supporting mods would you guys recommend on a 16 GT before adding a Stage 2 VMP kit?
Before adding the Stage 2 VMP kit, if you're gonna go Stage 2, not really. You just add the kit, really. You
Yeah.
don't have to do, and you don't have to do anything. The Stage 2 kit.
It'd be a good
comes with
idea to have a
everything.
decent tire on the car.
That's it, and some
Yeah.
axles eventually if you're gonna race it. But honestly, we have customers come in here like they drive from Minnesota, they drop off their car, put a Stage 2, and they drive it away, and you don't hear from them. You know,
Drive
and
from Connecticut,
Indiana,
everywhere.
Yeah, and it just put it on and just party because the kit comes with everything.
So Lucas John Cavora says, do you have any experience with a full NA build? I'm talking ported heads, CJ manifold,
Yes.
throttle body,
Yes.
valve springs, cams, etc. What
All
kind
of
of
it.
power?
Close to 500 wheel. We had a gentleman come in here with a blue S550 out of South Florida and let us R&D the car with our calibration, and the car made real close to 500 wheel horsepower on our dyno. It was middle summer, but whatever. That's pretty damn legit on E85. We had 47s, TJ67, PMOS cold air, ported heads, cams, and Cobra Jet setup, and it made close to 500 wheel. So could there have been more gains? Sure. If we had more time with it, I'm sure we could have cracked that number and then some. But as it was, full bolt on, it was close to 500 wheel, and it was a real happy car.
Yeah.
So Jimmy Peaks, do you guys tune for the JPC single turbo setups? And what fuel system do you guys recommend for 700 rear wheel horsepower?
Did he say in what fuel?
System.
No, he said fuel system, but did he say for what fuel?
I would think it's for 700. If he's asking for fuel system, I'm thinking he's thinking E85.
Probably.
I hope so. But yes, I've tuned a couple of single turbo JPC kits. They tune pretty similar to a centrifugal supercharger. Obviously, there's some cam changes that need to happen to make sure the car's happy. But yeah, I've tuned a couple, and the guys are happy. An automatic one. It's similar to a Hellion single. Sometimes the widebands are in the same downpipe, so you have to account for that. But and for fuel system, I mean, we recommend the same one over and over. It's a
Four Innovations twin pump return fuel system. If you're really going crazy, go to a triple pump and then a set of ID 1050s or ID 1300s, depending on what your
700
end
wheel.
horsepower goal is.
He said 700 wheel, but you know how it is. They just turn it up a little more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Another 5 pounds of boost. Oh, now you need 1300s.
Exactly.
So we still got a lot of questions left, and we're going here. We're at an hour for the show, so
Okay.
I'm going to pick a couple of the cream of the crop, and I'm just going to work through a couple of these real quick.
Cool.
SCT X4 versus BDX. I can speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
The BDX is cloud enabled. It's required for 18 up Mustang, 17 up F-150. It's got a couple rough edges, but it's the next generation tuning device from SCT. We work with both of them. Any other thoughts to add, guys?
Everything else can pretty much, like you said, 18 and up Mustang and 17 and up F-150. Everything else, the X4 works fine. It's just the old trusty. It seems to do real well. We've used BDXs here because it's a new product. We like them, but like you said, it has some rough edges that'll be worked out shortly. But so far, so good. I've sent some cloud-based tunes, which are great. You send it to the cloud, you update your device, boom, your tune shows up. The data logging, from what I can understand, is if you register the device and you submit a data log and upload it to the cloud, it sends you, the registered user, an email with that data log. So that kind of makes it, you still have to email us a data log.
Yeah, you still have to forward it over.
Right, but that's supposedly how it's supposed to work, but I personally haven't tested that yet.
Yeah, so that stuff's ever evolving, but there's more features coming out all the time. I'm going to jump to another question. Peyton Lucas, F-150 cams. The 15 to 17 F-150 engine is much better, same compression, better cams. Keep in mind it's a different firing order, so if you're going to use it with the Mustang engine, there's some finagling to do, or vice versa. Asking for some updates on VMP Gen 3 kits for F-150. We're finishing up some instructions for F-150, and then the VMP blower kits are going to come out.
I just asked Joe to go over and grab the Cobra 2650 model that you guys saw in the Burnout Box Thursday. This is what it's basically going to end up looking once it's all said and done. This is actually cast. I'm just really strong. So basically, this is what it ended up looking like, the 2650 for the Cobra guys that are heavily breathing and asking about it. You know, when you see this, the blower comes shortly thereafter. We've never shown you this and then not delivered on a blower shortly thereafter. So we're close, getting everything mocked up, prototyping, but it's a thing, and it'll be here sooner than later.
Yes.
Just look at it.
Would you just look at it?
I had a question about stroker kits for 5.0s, 2015 Mustang. Worth it power-wise or not? I don't know that you need one.
No.
What that inlet
I've seen
do?
these cars make 1,000 on, non-stroked out deals. So unless you're looking to make, 1,200, I don't know that there's a gain. I don't know, honestly. Haven't even seen it. 1,000's a lot. So
We got some questions. What size pulleys to make 900 to 1,000 rear wheel on a Gen 1 Coyote? The motor's built, but he does have stock cams. Should I use a VMP Twin 67 or VMP Mono? I'll answer that one real quick. Gen 3, you're going to want the 15% overdrive lower, and then a 75 to a 69 upper. You're going to want the VMP Mono. You're going to want to throw some cams in that thing. 900, 1,000 rear wheel. Boost just gets really high to make that type of power. It's not worth the stress on everything. Cams will add 60 to 80 at that level. They're very worth it. Bubba Bluel. You're going to lose, Bubba. Basically, get with us on a tune for that thing. It's not expensive, but yeah, you're going to lose. We need to get some more bolt-ons on that 12 GT. It's a 12 GT automatic versus an 18 Camaro SS 1LE.
you'll get
You'll get the
pushed
sauce.
in. Yes, you'll get it pushed in, and you'll need a lot of preparation, buddy. So
Yeah. Call us before you go into that race, please.
Don't be doing stupid stuff. Let's go.
Okay, best clutch besides Mantic for 11 to 14.50.
McLeod RST, RXT, but we talked about the twin disc on a MT82. So depending on how old and how good your MT82 is and how the gears are, I'd like a fuse in between this, or an RST is desirable besides the Mantic 9000. Is that what it's called?
Yep,
The
Mantic 9000 series.
Question, going back to Facebook, question about turning off advanced track through the tune. Has a 2013 GT. Sometimes it freaks out and burns up the rear brakes.
Yep.
Chase, I've got a little bit of experience with that in the sense that I'm going to tell you to use sport mode or pull your ABS fuse, but just turning off advanced track, there's not really a good way to do that.
Right.
It turns off a lot of stuff, and you get a lot of lights if you do it through the
Christmas
tune.
tree. I mean, I'm telling you, your whole dash is lit up, and then if you dare hit a patch of rain and don't have that protection, you're SOL. Trust me, these cars are actually really, really protecting themselves with that traction control system.
Yeah, and they'll actually, even if you turn it off with the button, you can still go into,
Advanced track.
the rollover protection type stuff if you're driving the car too hard. So there's actually a Boss S ABS module you can pop in the car when you're on the racetrack and have an aggressive ABS calibration without all the nannies and drive the hell out of it.
That's pretty awesome.
Mike Roberts got a pretty good question here. Stock block 1314, should I wait for the Gen 3 or will a Gen 2R setup do me justice? He's an auto looking to run 10.0. Based on your ET requirements, that's pretty aggressive. Gen 3 would be a bad idea. It'll do it easier than a Gen 2R.
Without even sweating,
Without a doubt,
really.
hanging out.
Gen 2R will still do it.
Bubba wants to know who we should talk to for a tune.
Give us a call, and our sales and support staff can answer any questions you have and get an order in the system for you.
Cool. Very good.
We had another question about pulley size, so this is a good one. Rob Ryan wants to know if he's going from an 85 to a 79, is there anything else besides a pulley and tune update? He has a Gen 2R. I don't know what stage you have, Rob.
Does he have boosters? You know, does he
Yeah,
have boosters,
boosters.
things like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, and then you're going to want to have really good 93 for a 79 millimeter. That's
Yeah.
pushing pump gas. Just looking through here.
No problem.
Has a question about the intake air temperature on the dash of a 17 GT with a VMP kit.
Okay, so that's basically what we're doing is we're actually, what you're seeing is downstream on your dash intake air temp. Because if you're using the piggyback harness, instead of the MAF seeing the temperature there, you're actually doing it via the blower. We're measuring blower temps via that piggyback harness. So it's not, when you see 117, it's not your cold air, or 120, it's your downstream blower temperatures. And, you know, a good way to check that out is, you know, when you're actually driving, you actually see them go, like maybe 130, 120, and when you're driving, you actually see them drop real quick. Same thing as if it was a mass air, but usually when the ambient temperature is like 75, you know your mass airflow sensor is not 115, 120. You know that the blower temps are that. So that's what your readout calls out, and that's how we protect the car by messing with the IAT function to protect it when they get too high.
True story.
So I'm going to do 2 more quick questions for you guys to answer.
Sure.
Jonas, 2015 F-150 Stage 1 with a Roush kit. What kind of horsepower can I get with a tune?
2015 with a stage 1 with a Roush kit.
He's talking about the stage 1.
F-150 kit.
Yep, so 5-liter F-150 kit. I've done a couple of those, stage 1 and even a phase 2 truck. I can't remember a number off the top of my head. Do you remember what JR's truck made? I think it was around 570.
Yeah, I mean, they'll usually dyno 520, 530, I think, stock at the
And
wheels.
that's what his truck did stock, but I want to say his truck was like 570 or 575 tire.
It's about
with
right.
with the same pulley and everything on it.
Just a tune.
Yep, just a tune.
And then Mario Ruffin had a question. When upgrading your ice tank, would it be beneficial to upgrade the intercooler pump, or will the one that came with the kit do just fine?
The one that came with the kit was just fine on mine. It's never a bad idea to upgrade an intercooler pump, in my opinion, but the one that came with the kit on my car was just fine, never had an issue, so.
Yeah, and if you're running an ice tank setup, like the one that we sell that's all
Front
nice and
mounted?
coated and everything, the front mounted one for the engine bay, you don't necessarily need an upgraded pump to take advantage of the ice tank, but as Alex alluded to, it wouldn't necessarily be bad to run something like a 1314 pump or another upgraded pump.
So yeah,
Well,
that's
I
it.
think that wraps it up for today.
Nice,
Yeah.
you should do this all the time. Nice and neat, get a bunch of questions in. I'm not bashing Carrie, I hope she feels better.
Yeah.
But no, good work, because he was able to answer some of those questions that we don't know if we should answer or not, especially on the 18 stuff. That's like, thank God he stepped in there and
Man,
said he had a blower.
We had a ton of questions, guys.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We'll just have them share it, and then what we do is we go back and we try to answer as many as possible. So as long as the shares are up there, we'll go back. We will absolutely answer your questions. Either Joe, I'll try to get in there myself, but we are really swamped with the tuning queue, so we're actually trying to do our best to get everything answered as quickly as possible.
You guys got to get back to work after
Exactly.
this.
Gotta get
Yeah.
to work. Gotta get to work. So anyway,
The queue's a little crazy right now.
So I guess we'll sign off. Thanks for everything. Like, share, subscribe. Tune in for Burnout Box Thursday with Justin, Rebecca, and Donny. And then we'll see. And then next week's show, Frank Perdomo will be here to answer all of your Coyote Swap questions.
Yep. Kind of like our show with Jeff at Mantic. I
Same
know that he wants
same
to come
way.
back, do another show like that.
So
If you
get
guys like
ready.
to see stuff like this,
Right.
tell us who you want us to talk to, whether or not you've reached out to them or not. Whether or not you've reached out to them or not, or you want us to reach out to them to try and get them on the show, just let us know.
All righty. That'll do it for us.
Yep. Have a good day, guys.
See you later.
Thanks, everybody.